Good morning, everyone. Let's call this BPAC meeting to order. It is, we'll just say it's 10 o'clock. Roll call.
Yes, good morning, all. Happy that you all are here. I've got Chair White, Vice Chair Strom,
Here.
Member Arnerich,
Here.
Member Pearson,
Here.
and Member Freitas.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comments, if there is anyone just on the internet or here in the audience that would like to make a comments that are not on the agenda, you have 5 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, we do have a Charles Carroll virtually that would like to make a comment.
Charles, you're on board.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, hi. I just I'm just dropping in as an observer. But I'm Charles Carroll. I am with Caltrans District 10, and glad to see. Glad to be able to join the meeting, and just want to let you know that, well, just a little background. I am the District 10 Active Transportation Portfolio Manager, and I was also the chair of our District 10 Bicyclist Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to let you know. Just got a couple things I'd like to share with you, having to do with efforts relating to walking and bicycling here in District 10. And one of the things I just wanted to let you know is that District 10 is interested in learning more about and collaborating with StanCog, having to do with proposed Class 1 and Class 4 networks that you may be interested in looking at or pursuing in the future. We are very much would like to learn more and collaborate in the future on those efforts, as we see those future networks as a way to help provide viable alternatives to driving and to expand opportunity and access for active transportation users, not just on or close to the state highway system, but within the corridors of state highways and throughout the counties of District 10 in general. So any new information that you may have in the future, we'd like to share or collaborate on ways to make those types of facilities a reality. Just want to let you know also that our Bicyclist Pedestrian Advisory Committee, similar to yours, does meet quarterly. Our next meeting is going to be in early April. The chair of that committee is now Evan Misak. But if you want more information about that committee, you can reach out to me. I believe Josephine Oshana has my contact information. I say that because invites related to the StanCog BPAC do come from her. But I can also leave that information into the chat as well if you'd like to reach out to learn more about the BPAC and about needs and opportunities, particularly within built environments, having to do with overcoming gaps and barriers related to walking and biking. And also, just one last thing, our May is Bike Month event is coming up in a few months, and we look forward to that. We've been having that event, holding that event on the Virginia Corridor Trail in Modesto, and it's been a lot of fun over the last couple of years. So just putting in a plug for that future activity coming up in May. and we welcome any interest or participation from StanCog and from the city of Modesto, and anyone else who's interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, and we can talk about that more. But I think what I'll do is I'll just leave my contact information in the chat, and we can, we can follow up that way. But that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Charles, if you could you talk to the crew that does the street sweeping and on the Kiernan Quarter to McHenry for the highway? There's going to be a lot more debris. There already is quite a bit of debris, but with the construction on the new bypass, we're picking up more debris on the sides of the road. The lanes are almost unrideable.
All right. Yeah, so that's on Kiernan.
Correct.
Okay.
That's on Kiernan from 99 in Salida to McHenry Avenue.
Okay.
Beyond that,
All
it's
right.
county.
All right. So I will pass that information on to maintenance, and what I'll also do is I'll leave a link in the chat to our customer service request page online, and that'll be a way also to submit a need for shoulder sweeping. So you can utilize that online resource as well. So I'll put that into the chat. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Is there any other public comments at this time? Move on to item 4, consent calendar. Motion to approve the BPAC special meeting minutes of January 7th.
I move we approve the minutes of our regular January 7th meeting as submitted.
Not the special?
It's not, that wasn't a special. It was a special meeting, but it wasn't special.
Well, I'm just reading it off forgive me. Okay. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the BPAC meeting of January 7th? We had one. And
I second the motion.
pass. Approved.
That was a first by member Arnovich and a second by member Freitas.
Correct.
Thank you.
A point of clarification, just in case, I don't know if this matters, but does it matter if there's a difference between it saying special meeting or regular meeting in the consent calendar?
Thank you for that question, Vice Chair. I will look into the January meeting, but because they are quarterly, and I will check that, okay, for correction. Thank you.
I can clarify that.
Could we just, if just have it fixed, because it's not going to make a difference? Like, in other words, if that's wrong, can we just say we approve the fixing? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we approve the minutes regardless. Thanks.
Yeah, let me make a comment.
Hey,
Chairman, good morning.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, my name is Stephen Morrow. I actually sit on the Stanislaus Regional Transit Authority Board. The clarification between a special and a regular meeting, if a meeting is not held on its designated date by law or procedure, it then technically becomes a special meeting. We move a couple of our meetings every year, so even though we conduct regular business, because they're not on the designated date, they are special meetings. So that's your clarification.
Helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. On to item 5, presentations, regional transportation plan, sustainability committee strategy.
Good morning. Funny, everyone has this
brain fog, it seems, this morning. I know I do. Anyway, at least we're all in the same state. So we're going to continue on with our conversation about the the Regional Transportation Plan and the Sustainable Community Strategies. We have the folks from Kinley Horn here to talk about where we are. And this will be, I believe, the final presentation in the series of 3 that we've had regarding the bike and ped study. And I'll turn it over to Kimberly Horn.
All right, thank you guys for hearing us again. Just wanted to give you an update on where we are with the active transportation plan work we've been doing. So if you recall last time, we walked you through the potential network that we were looking at for bicycle facilities through the regional system, and we've further refined and developed that as we've been moving forward. So today we'll talk a little bit, just a quick reminder on where we are, where we were last time. And then we'll show you what we've been identifying. So we've really looked at the major constraints we see in the corridor, identifying where there's maybe a more significant investment needed to make some of the facilities we want to do, what kind of classifications we think can be accommodated on those various corridors that we were looking at, and then how we're converting those into actual projects that could be put into the regional transportation plan or other funding streams. And then we've also looked a little bit at ridership. So we can talk a little bit about what we see as the likely use we would get on some of those trails, and then where we're going to go from this next. So this map we showed you last time. So this is just that higher level look at the regional facilities. You see those little pink dots are where we found activity nodes that we wanted to connect, and then all those colorful lines were the various facilities and roadways that we felt should be included in the plan. The color coding indicates whether or not they're in an existing plan now or not. So nothing new here, but where we took it the next step is this map. So where you see those dots, these aren't the activity nodes anymore. These are where we see a barrier that we have to overcome to build those facilities. So the color coding, I know this is really hard to read, but essentially the red dots are where we have a major intersection change or a railroad crossing that we have to deal with. The orange dots are more of a crossing that needs to happen mid-block or somewhere where we need some kind of protection, and various other things like that. There's potential bridges that are too narrow to accommodate the facilities, or a whole variety of other things. Even in some cases, there might be some bridges that are needed. So those are probably where the biggest dollar amounts for these projects are going to come from. And then the line work's all been updated to show color coding by the type of facility. So you'll see there's class 1, 2, 3, 2B, and class 4. So are you guys all familiar with the class system, or would it be helpful to explain those ish? Okay. So essentially class 1, that's a completely separated trail. You're fully separated from traffic. It usually will either have its completely own right of way, not on the road, or it's far enough separated parallel road where there's no interaction with traffic. Class 2 is your painted bike lane along the side of the road. Class 2B is when you have a painted bike lane, but there's a buffer included in that. So it's not a physical hard separation, but there's more space between the bicycles and the moving vehicle traffic. Class 3 is the shared lane. So where the sharrows, generally we want to see those on lower volume, lower speed roadways. And then class 4 is the bike lane with a physical hard separation between traffic. So there's some kind of a curb or something that physically impedes traffic from intruding on the bike lane. So the color coding here is based on how much right-of-way is available on those various corridors. So we made some assumptions that we didn't want to be getting into people's private property or anything to develop these facilities. And we didn't want to be necessarily losing traffic lanes, but we did want to be able to constrain things in a way that fits the best facility that we could along those areas. And there's a few places where it is an actual river trail or something not part of a roadway system. So those get the class 1 pretty much automatically.
My apologies. And I'm probably getting over my skis maybe a little bit with this because you're probably going to talk about it. But the parts where you say like either widen a bridge or create a pedestrian bicycle bridge, have you, and if you're going to talk about this, I'll just stop. But have you folks looked at like the price difference? Because would it be maybe cheaper to just build something special for the bikes and peds, or is it cheaper to widen?
That's part of what we're going to be doing over this next little bit. And there will be occasions where it's in this or that. So we give you the options to do either. Because when you're riding a bridge, typically, in most cases, it's cheaper to do some kind of a cantilever than to build a brand new structure. But not all bridges can support that. Some bridges are nearing the end of their lifespan anyway and need to be replaced. And in some cases, if it's a fairly new bridge that's already there, it might be more effective to just build a parallel bike bridge, but it's going to be case by case. So this slide basically just goes through those classes as I was describing them a little bit. And really the key difference is just how much separation do we have from the moving traffic. So the goal here is to provide as much separation as possible on any given facility so that we're creating an environment where people don't have to feel stressed out about trucks zooming a couple feet away from them with no separation wherever that's feasible. So we did prioritize higher class facilities. What may be a little counterintuitive in terms of the way we prioritize. Class 1's obviously the best. Class 4 would be the second best. And then Class 2B would follow that. And then somewhat counterintuitively, I would generally prefer a Class 3 over a Class 2, assuming it's the right kind of facility. Because if we're able to find a way to route our facilities into low stress, low speed, low volume roadways, as opposed to on the side of a highway with really fast traffic without a lot of space, we tend to like that more, and you're going to get more comfort, more use of the facility that way. Class 2 is sort of the last resort. That's what there's just not really any room or any other alternative, but it's better than just putting them in a dirt shoulder somewhere. So just talking about the project development side of this a little bit. So obviously building all of this is going to be phenomenally expensive and is not something that can happen any short order of time. So really what we need to do is identify where are we going to get the best bang for the buck in the shorter term? And we need to create actual implementable projects out of this network so that as you get opportunities to build things, you're building them where they're going to have the most impact, and you're building things that make sense. You don't want to build a project segment that's just kind of randomly in the middle of nowhere that's not connected to anything. So we need to build out the network in a logical way. So as we're separating these out, we're really looking for maybe $3 to $4 million investments for a lot of these trail segments so that they're within the range that you can get grants for. They can be handled as a reasonable project as opposed to trying to find a $50 million project that's going to be really impossible to fund overnight. And then it's a long-term effort. So working through the RTV process, working through development activities, working with your maintenance programs, all of those kind of things as they happen, provide the opportunity to have this vision, this long-term goal, so you know where you want these facilities to be, and you can construct them as opportunities present themselves over time, and not necessarily having to look at every single project individually of like, oh, what should this include? What shouldn't it include? You have that master plan already in place. So the other key important part of this is the ridership estimates. So this is a little bit of a wonky slide, and but basically what we're doing, you'll see that sort of nerdy little thing, NCHRP report 552 on top. So that's the National Cooperative Highway Research Program. So it's a federal part of the national academies and the Transportation Research Board. And they've conducted this research across the country that came up with some algorithms that are fairly easy to implement, that you can estimate how much ridership are you likely to get if you build a particular type of a bicycle amenity. We can actually use it a little bit for pedestrians too. So we ran this method through all of the projects that we've identified here to get a sense of what kind of ridership there'll be. So this table on the bottom right is a bit of an example of what that looks like. So depending on the type of facility, you can have a high, medium, or a low estimate. So if it's not quite as high quality of a facility because there's no room or anything, we might go a little to the lower or the medium estimates. If it's a class 1 really nice facility, we'd probably go on the high level of the estimate. And it's based largely on local conditions here in Stanislaus County. So we look at the amount of population within a half mile, a full mile, and a mile and a half of where the facility is constructed. We look at what it's connected to, and then we look at the existing bicycle ridership information for the county and several other characteristics in the census, how many children ride bikes, how many adults, how many people commute by bike. And that all gets kind of plugged into this spreadsheet system that then says, if we build this facility, this is how many new riders we're going to induce into the system for these various purposes. And then we can get an estimate for what the actual ridership will be. So this is really important because when we're trying to go after grants or any funding for these projects, that's the first thing they're going to ask. How many vehicle miles of travel am I going to take off out of the cars? How much health benefits are we going to have? How many people are going to actually use this? So so having that ability to make that distinction is going to be a big part of that prioritization. So this map shows where we see the ridership projection, and you might not be shocked to see this, but the facilities that we're building in Turlock, Ceres, Modesto, they're going to have a lot more immediate ridership because there's a lot more people there. There's a lot more land uses to serve. When you go to some of these further out ones, connecting the further flung cities, it's going to be a little bit of a lower ridership. You're going to be serving more recreational trips. You're probably not going to see quite as much commuting happening there, but there's still demand, and there's still something that we need to have. But when we're looking at the benefit, the cost, all those kind of things, and putting that all together, we want to make sure we're building and getting more people onto their bikes, onto walking. And then as we do that, we're going to see the demand increase for some of those other things that might be a little more costly to build in the long run.
I noticed on the map that we're only showing projects that are wholly within Stanislaus County. I don't see any projects connecting to, for instance, San Joaquin, going across the river in Ripon where we have an existing trail, or on McHenry where they've been doing expansion. I think we should reflect those also, even though not wholly. It's the old bit, if you're going to do a project every half mile and then forget the rest, it doesn't work.
No, that's a very good point. And the scope of what we were looking at didn't include a lot of the nodes out there in the adjacent counties. So where we know there is need to connect to something over there, that's perfect, the kind of comments that we want to get, so we can make sure those get factored in. Because remember, a lot of this was based off the plans that exist now. So if we didn't see a project already planned to connect into Ripon or something, we don't have that there now. So we'll want to make sure we get that in.
That would probably be something you want to talk to Caltrans District 10 also about when you do that, Charles, because they're usually the coordinating agency between counties.
Quick question. Your ridership estimates for these various routes, is that daily, monthly, yearly, or?
It's based on daily estimates. So it's looking at how many potential riders are there for the various uses. And it's obviously it's going to vary a little day to day, but based on the number of people who have that propensity, that potential interest of riding their bike, that's what we would see as daily use. But also keep in mind, if you've got a facility that's 2 miles long, it doesn't mean you're going to see that many riders on the entire length of it. It means that many riders are going to touch it at some point in its length over the course of the day. So if you're standing there counting bikes at one spot, you might not see that same number, even if you are having that amount.
And a question I have is, do you have data that looks at both the bicycle ridership and crossover into public transportation, like the bus systems? Is there any way to track that?
We do have some data on that, but that hasn't been a huge focus at this level. Because that's typically a little bit more the local agencies when they're doing their plans, that they're doing that prioritization. We're trying to look at this bigger picture, just making sure that connectivity is there across the county. So alignment with transit systems and where the stops are is absolutely something we looked at, because we didn't want to have all the nice bike facilities running like a half mile offset from where the transit runs go, so that you have to go on some high stress road to get to it. But it is a factor, yes. So moving forward from this point, we're just finalizing that list of ATP projects. So like I said, we're trying to break them up into manageable projects and making sure they make sense, so that we're not building things that look like a bike lane to nowhere in the short term, and then having to wait 10 years for the next piece to come in. We're looking at the cost estimate as well. So figuring out how much it's going to cost to overcome those barriers, what's our typical cost per mile for the various types of facilities, so that we can assign that cost to each one. Then the typical cross-section and concept plans, just so when StanCog wants to share with local agencies what the vision is, they can just pull that cross section and be like, okay, so I'm going to repave this road. I can repave it with these standards now. if I want to complete that project. And then the project priority scoring system. So once we're finished that project, we'll actually have a ranked list, project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down the way. And it's not because you have to build them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want to be opportunistic. You want to pursue opportunities to build things as they come along. But it tells you if you're going to pursue a grant, here's the next one that you might want to prioritize for doing that. And then we'll be compiling all this into the draft ATP report and circulating that for additional comment before we finalize. And then obviously the long run goal is to get those projects into the RTP SCS and other systems so that they can start to move towards actual implementation. So that's pretty much the end of this presentation. I do have an interactive map version of this. So if we want to look through and get into some details, I'm happy to pull that up and discuss it or answer any questions, feedback, however you guys would like to take this. I'm happy to work with you.
Is that interactive map available online?
It will be. So it's the same as before where we're showing it to you first, but we'll be sharing it up onto that public website and the mapping to get comments.
I think you have already kind of laid this out, but I just want to kind of get some clarification maybe on how it happens. So we know that adding like bike lanes and things like that is less expensive when it's happening when places are redoing their roads, right? Do our local communities, especially like Modesto, Turlock, and Ceres in particular, do those folks like feed you their schedule of when they are doing road repair, creating new roads, things like that, that allow you to kind of do what you were talking about, like prioritize projects?
It's a little bit the other way around. So we're working with them and we're sharing the projects that we see and getting their input to make sure that they're consistent with what they want to do so that they have that information. So when they're doing their maintenance cycles, they can make sure they're not just repaving and restriping to the same standard that it was before. If there's a vision and they're aware of it, they can make that change at the time. So that's where the prioritization is actually a little bit wonky because we don't want to tell them, oh no, you can't put this bike lane in because it wasn't the first project. If you're repaving the road, let's do it now. Let's just get it done so that you don't have to worry about that in the future. So they're driving that schedule, but we're providing them the information to make the
It's
decisions.
the most cost effective too, when you're redoing the roads such as Paradise. And they brought that up to full standard. If they tried to do that from scratch on an existing road, it's very expensive. Same thing on McHenry Avenue out between Ladd and the San Joaquin County line. When they redid the bridge, they expanded that. We have a gap between Ladd and Kern right now where it's 2-lane. Makes no sense to put in bike lanes right now. But when they finally expand that to 4-lane, then we'll get the lanes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to what you mentioned, once you get into San Joaquin County, off of River Road, straight into Escalon, there is no existing, what I call bike lane. So,
But
that's
there is a wide shoulder though, which is better than
right.
between Ladd and Kernan, where there's a narrow shoulder and it's half paved. So there's a raised lip halfway across the narrow shoulder.
But that's also the key element is that we coordinate with the other counties to make sure our plans are consistent.
I just had a question about how gathering feedback is going from the website and with the interactive comment tool. Is there any like numbers that you can give us in terms of community engagement thus far?
To be honest, it's been a little limited so far. We've had it up for quite a while. There's, I want to say maybe 20 comments that have come in so far. We'd love to see a lot more. So the more you all can sort of throw that out there, get the folks you're working with to submit comments and all that would be greatly appreciated. We're still trying to work with the cities as well to get them participating a little bit more. To be honest, some of the other projects that are going on have their attention just a little bit more, especially in Modesto with the CEZ plan that's going on and all that. But this is an important one and it feeds into a lot of stuff. So we really don't want it to get swept under the rug. And honestly, the more feedback we get, the more we can point to, that's going to help you even more with grants and things. So
What kind of resources are available to to do more pushing the websites where it needs to be pushed. Like I haven't seen anything on Nextdoor. I think I saw one thing on Instagram from Debrief. There's no physical flyering, at least in the areas that I've been around. And I'm on train, bus, and bike all the time. So yeah, where are we at with being able to push it out digitally and physically? How can you all equip us as commission members to also carry out that work besides just simply like posting a link on whatever platforms we might use?
We do have physical flyer forms with the QR code that we've been distributing at public engagement events that have been held for particularly the CEZ study and some of the VMT efforts that have been getting out there. The penetration, like I said, hasn't been as great because we don't have quite as many, and it's a big county, so it's hard to get to everywhere all at once. But we're happy to share those with anybody that wants to bring them to any events that they're attending and
Please provide
all that.
ASAP.
Yes, I would like a stack of whatever you have too, because I work at Stan State. And I think that some of the students there would be very interested in having a say of what's happening.
That would be wonderful.
Has any of this been pushed out, your interactive map, to local bicycle shops?
We've been communicating with some of the CBOs and the nonprofit agencies that work with bikes and stuff. We haven't been going specifically to the bike shops or anything, but we're trying to get to the stakeholder groups that are most well connected to them.
I might just add, this is good feedback that we can definitely try to do some additional stuff like this. So I think like the bikes stores is a good idea. We can try to send some materials out or some emails at least, or try to make some contacts there. We still have some time. Also just add that we are doing city council presentations over the next month for all of the projects, but this will be one of the projects I'll specifically bring up. So we'll mention, driving folks to the website again to collect feedback at Board of Supervisors and all the city council. So, but I think this bike shops is a good idea, and getting a pile of flyers to you all is a good idea. And so I think we're open to other avenues or suggestions. We are, transmitting through various things, but like I said, we're like Daryl's saying, we're probably not getting the magnitude we'd like, obviously. So, any suggestions are good suggestions. Listen.
I just want to add, it is really hard in such a car-centric place. I mean, it really is. I think everybody up here understands that. But I think it's weird because for a while, digital was the thing to do, and I feel like on a certain level, some of the younger folks that would be amenable to doing this stuff, and including like the folks that go to like my local bike shop, I think like giving them a physical flyer, it's harder to forget to go do that than it is if you say scan the QR code, they put it on the the website pops up, and then they flick it off, and then eventually somehow that gets X'd out. So I know it's killing a tree, but yeah, if you could get us some of that stuff, I know I have easy pickings to hand that stuff out at.
And then just a public comment from my perspective from Riverbank. I think if you get on their presentation schedule for city council somewhere down the road, I think that they would be very receptive to all that, because then that also envelops that too.
So I might just add, we're actually going there tonight.
Oh, good. I'll be watching.
All right, great. We'll see you then.
I also was going to ask when the Modesto presentation was scheduled for.
I can pull that up for you when I have a minute. I've got a calendar with them all in it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's really important as Modesto looks at its 2050 plan that you guys all be active and participating in all of that. So anyway.
And we have been in close communication with the city staff, so they're aware of what we're doing and they're giving us feedback.
Yeah, I was across the street yesterday for the public comment stuff that I'd sent in. So
Yeah, and I agree with your point, Anne, about having the physical. Now it's like we've reached the other end. The pendulum has swung where it's like now we need to go back to old school methods. But also for what it's worth, I think Nextdoor has become a really big place for at least City of Modesto to run a lot of their ads. I feel like that's where I get all of my news is Nextdoor now that we don't have newspapers. So yeah, if there's resources to put towards Nextdoor ads, I think that would be a great, at least experiment, but I would imagine also just a great use of time and outreach.
Mr. Chair, our associate planner from Stancog, Nick St. Cook, has a comment.
Hello,
I
this is
get what
Nixon
you're
Cook.
saying, but
Just
if
wanted
someone
to,
has,
oh, sorry.
go for it.
Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to really quickly say that the City of Modesto Council meeting is going to be March 3rd. That's a Tuesday, and that's at 5:30.
Thank you.
All right, so if you guys like, I can pull up the interactive map, or if you, okay, let me just grab my computer here. And
Sorry, I just had one more comment. I think, I just want to frame one thing up is that, so the RTP gets updated every 4 years. So this is like a reoccurring. So I think part of what's intended is at the conclusion of some of these projects is we're planning to move some of this stuff over permanently from the project website to Stancog's website. So there could be the opportunity for some of this to kind of be available for kind of ongoing feedback, if that makes sense, for a period of time, so that when we get to the next cycle, maybe we've collected some more, like even if it's a couple of years of just, folks thought of it and like had something to poke in there kind of thing, that when we go to update again, we'll have that additional feedback. So I think there's some intent or hope that we're going to work towards that as we conclude these projects. Keep some of that outreach constant and available.
all right, so on screen now, I have the same map, but just obviously blown up more. So if there's anywhere you guys would like to look at, or if you just want to maybe go city by city to see what's there, we can do that.
City by city is probably fine.
So I guess if we want to start up here in the Oakdale area, it's still primarily through the Highway 120, 108. So the color coding here, class 4, is what these sort of magenta lines are. So that's the physically separated bike lane. And then we have some class 3 facilities sort of more through the city area. So these are the lower speed roadways. And then we do have the connection up to Valley Home, which is also class 3. Admittedly, these are not as low speed of roadway as we'd like to have a class 3, but there wasn't really room to put anything else there because they're pretty constrained. So this version of class 3 would actually be more shoulder use than shared lane, but it's not a full bike lane. And then we have the river trail here, which is the class 1. So we get sort of over more to Riverbank. Oh, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering too, and again, I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse or somebody else, but like that new the construction of the trail in that state highway, Oakdale. Do you know if that could be used as like a tourism marketing kind of thing too, like to promote people coming there, bring your bikes, come here, ride free kind of a thing?
That's actually an extremely important use of these kind of things, especially when you have a river trail or something like that that's really scenic. There is a big market for that. People like to get out and ride. Mike himself is always bragging to me about how his house backs off onto a river trail and he'll never move in a million years because it's the greatest place he's ever lived in his life. And so I would say that yes, it improves property values, it improves community amenity, it's an economic development tool, it leads to jobs. There's no end of benefits come to it. It's been well documented that communities that invest in this type of infrastructure, they also attract younger residents. You get more of that long-term growth and sustainability. And we know the Central Valley has a bit of an issue with that, where the population is aging and potentially facing declines as we move forward. So finding a way to counteract that is really important. And this is definitely a good way to do it. All right, so then just looking at Riverbank, we've got same kind of deal here. We've got the class 4 facility running along. You see the gap on the 108 because there's some existing facilities there already, I is my understanding, but And then we've got the little class 1 connection throughout. And then the green, so these are those two Bs. They're bike lanes with a little bit of a buffer, not quite the physical separation, but at least there's some more than just a single 6-inch stripe between the bikes and the cars. And then we've got a few connections down into Modesto from there.
And just a comment, on your map, there's one project that they completed finally, that's 2 blocks of a bike path as category 4, and then it stopped. So, it's exquisite for 2 blocks.
That's the old one. The developer goes to develop the property. Besides having to deed property rather than having to use public domain to grab it, they're required to pay for certain improvements. So that's why you see a lot of patchwork. You get a new subdivision, you're going to get the improvements. Oh, a question. We don't show the bypass that is under construction right now from Oakdale and Clarabelle going out. That's going to bypass Clarabelle. I'm assuming that's going to have bike infrastructure on it.
I don't have specific information on what that project is going to include right now. I don't think it was included in the bicycle projects, but it might be because it was just listed under the roadway group because of what it is. So I can double check that and see what the
Yeah, and what
expectation
he's
is.
talking about is the North County corridor development that's currently in production to get the overpass over the railroad track. I don't see anything that has a bicycle lane from the documents that I've looked at.
Well, I'm hoping that the complete streets affects that, because that's going to go all the way out to the southeast side of Oakdale and bypass Oakdale. For instance, going out to Emory and that,
Yeah, Lover's Loop.
yeah, which would really help on bicycle commuting.
All right, thank you. So then getting into Modesto itself, it's a fair bit of connection around the mall area up in the north. We've got the downtown, a few streets that we've indicated as important, heading out 132 towards Empire. We've got another river trail down south and some connections down to Ceres and Keys. And then a few connections, again, following from downtown to get over to the western communities. These are obviously very rural roads that you have to travel through pretty long distances. So we're not thinking these are going to be really high volume facilities, but it's an important ability to connect Wesley, Patterson, Newman, and some of the communities out there so that we have that connectivity across the county.
And what class would those be going out into that rural area?
So these are all the green ones here are the 2B. So they're bike lanes with a bit of separation, but there's not enough room to build full curb. And also in those rural areas, the problem with physical infrastructure that's curbs is drainage. So we have to be very mindful of that. So if you don't have a curb and gutter in place now, putting physical stuff in the middle of the road creates a lot of maintenance problems. You can't sweep it. There's a never ending thing. So we're trying to keep to class 2 unless we have that curb and gutter. Class 2B, sorry.
I guess I get nervous because I feel like a lot of bicyclists get killed in these rural roads where people are just not paying attention. And I know we had a pretty big spate of those a couple of years ago, like after COVID in particular. But I think we do see that a lot. I know we tend to think of the urban as like the most dangerous place, and it probably is in some level.
It's not. You're very correct. The rates are much higher in rural areas.
Yeah. So how can that be mitigated given the constraints that you're talking about? Is there a way to mitigate that?
So there's no perfect solution, but yes, you can make it better than it is. So right now, where you see those higher rates, a lot of the time it is because people are just riding their bikes in a shoulder and then they encounter some debris, they have to go into the travel lane, or somebody driving isn't paying attention, they drift over. So there are treatments that you can do in addition to the bike lane. So that buffer is one thing. We're giving them more space. So there's some margin between where the cars are and where the bikes are. The other is we can add rumble strips along the outside of the bike lane so that instead of the car having to get all the way to the dirt to feel that, they're feeling it before they intrude on the bike lane. And there's treatments like that that have been helpful.
And is that something that you already have baked into the plan for these rural areas?
We haven't finished the specific amenity list, but when we cost it out, the cost per mile will probably be factoring in some of those.
Could we swing back west towards Grayson, Patterson? I think you're showing Highway 33 as the ideal bike route. Having ridden alongside Highway 33, anywhere with the commuters that use that, we actually, the most popular road for cyclists is River Road and Cox. And there's a jog over, which is between 33 and the river. And that allows you to cross also 132 and get up to Airport going north, or taking Case on Road into Tracy. So I think any plan that uses 33, unless you're going to put in a massive infrastructure, is going to be extremely dangerous.
So this one is one we'd indicated a physical separation between the bikes and the traffic. The reason we chose 33 was because it's a little more direct. One of the other measures we're always trying to improve on is not making the bikes have to go 3 times farther than a car would have to make the same trip. For that equity side. So River and the other roads we can certainly look at as well, but the 33 seemed like the most equitable option with that physical separation, if it was not viable for anything less.
In that case, it would have to be done as a complete project, not piecemeal, because it wouldn't get the use and just drop you off in the wrong place. But if you can do the whole thing with the separation, yes. And to the comment about being safer in town or out of town, I'm a lot safer even on 33 than I am riding in towns with surface streets and side streets and people buzzing you. The wider the street, the more lanes, even though the higher traffic, it's safer.
And it's also time of day when you're doing in the city. So I in particular, when I'm riding throughout the city, I choose my times.
Just sort of, I
And
guess,
also,
No, I think that's great, except for not everybody can, right? Choose their times. And so, that's where my question comes in, is like, how can we make sure that people feel that confident that they're gonna, make it home at night, regardless of where they go, when they are riding, open and a 3,000-pound death machine is coming their way, right? So how do we do that? And that's why I was just curious. But you're right. I found for myself, the faster that the traffic are going, like in thoroughfares and things like that, people are paying more attention than suburban side streets and parking lots. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Or school pickup, which is devil incarnate.
The best thing we could do is get the government to ban white Ram pickups. I'm serious. For cyclists that have done national touring and locally, if they're buying white, they're cheap. They don't want to spend money for color. Number two, the image that Dodge and Ram are promoting is yeehaw, I'll do whatever I want. And 9 out of 10 close passes are white pickups. And of the white pickups, 7 of those are Dodge Rams.
so just as an aside for information on that, there's a good document Caltrans has published, the California Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment. The California statewide Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment, and it gives a pretty comprehensive look at the various risk factors, which communities specifically have the biggest challenges, where we see elevated rates of bicycle and pedestrian injuries, that contrast between urban and rural, and what kind of risk factors and mitigations Caltrans is trying to promote as good methods to move forward. So it's worth a look, and it's a pretty nice website. So there's a report and an actual interactive website you can look at to get some good information. So it's the Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment. It's an FHWA requirement all states had to do. So California published their first one a couple of years ago.
And I might just add that Daryl was heavily involved in development of it, so you can ask him any questions you want about it too.
Bus.
In what you're doing, planning routes between different cities, communities, in particular with rural areas where I ride quite a bit, is there any, I guess, consideration for any type of signage, share the road? I mean, I'm not sure whether a lot of drivers pay a close attention to that, but I would certainly like to see a lot more of it.
Yeah, so especially in class 3, that is actually part of what should be there. That's one of the defining characteristics of a class 3 facility. It's the painted sharrows on the road. There should be signage throughout. We did discuss the potential of a countywide wayfinding system, maybe to help with that as well, to guide people to where the best facilities are. I think it was determined it's a little premature for that now because we need to have a little bit more infrastructure in place and styles change and all that kind of stuff. So that would be a later effort once a little bit more is on the ground to have that put there. But it is definitely an important part of it. And then getting back to Commissioner Ann's comment, when you're trying to sell and market your system and try to use it as a tourist draw, having that branding and having those kind of facilities goes way farther than you could imagine in terms of actually like getting good Instagram selfie photos that make people want to go and check it out.
The signage, share the road is fine with sharrows, but reality is you should post, cyclists may use full lane because you're out there to block the lane, such as going into a roundabout, and you get the occasional driver who doesn't think you should be out there. They don't understand that that is what share the road is.
Fair enough. And the California MUTCD has a whole series of different signs that are approved for use. Your cities and the county have to be careful to stay within those boundaries because you introduce a lot of liability if you start creating your own types of signage. But anything within that structure is perfectly good and acceptable to use. And yeah, exactly.
And put it in multiple languages.
And that's where we hit the MUTCD problem. So we have to be careful about that. But yeah.
Just one more question for me. Well, maybe. Based on what folks were just talking about, I know that this couldn't be something on like a highway, but what about the whole road diets and things like that to help reduce the speeds and to get folks who are drivers to be paying more attention? Is that getting any legs around here?
Yeah, there's definitely efforts for that, and Mike can probably speak to it soon as well. But the local agencies are going to be driving that a lot more than StanCog would. They're the ones that own the facilities and have that ability to make those determinations. So, for example, if we're saying we should have a class 4 bike lane on this road, we think it can be accommodated, and the city's like, well, I don't know, we kind of want to keep our parking or something else like that. They would have that option to take a look and be like, well, maybe we don't need 4 lanes, we could do 2, and then we can have all of those things along this facility. But StanCog's not in the best position to tell them they have to do that. So it's kind of
How come?
it's just ownership. The cities, the county, they own the roads. StanCog doesn't get to make those determinations.
Yeah, I guess,
I might just add-
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead,
I was
please.
going to add to that. Important distinction with StanCog is they don't have land use authority. That just is,
Okay.
they're not vested within them as a right, so they can't dictate it legally to any agency. But I do want to make the point that all of these products are collectively adopted by cities and agencies. So the assumption is that if they're adopting it and not voicing like, I don't want this, like during the adoption process, we assume that that is the intent, that they're going to construct it. I mean, it is true that these are plans, and sometimes plans need to change over time, and that just makes sense. We need to have flexibility, but I think the understanding is the intent will be to do as the plan is adopted.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, in Modesto, it's modestosafestreets.com with a scan. They had, I'm not sure if it's still up or not, an interactive map of the Floyd improvements, or is it Floyd or Rumble improvements going through to put road diets in. And that's at least in Modesto, the road diets are very popular on two-lane streets because while the traffic lane is no narrower, visually it looks narrower and causes people to slow down.
I just want to stick on this for just a moment because I am, thank you very much for that. I don't want to veer too far off of this, but it really does bother me that like the community that I live in, the leadership is terribly uninterested in making adjustments for people who are not in automobiles. I mean, they literally, since I've been there 18 years, and they have raised, let's see, Christofferson, Monte Vista, and Gear roads. They've raised those speed limits by over at least 10 miles per hour just in the time that I've lived there. And there's at least 8 K through 12 and college or in a university on those roads, with the CSU Stanislaus literally being on one of each of those 3. And so we've had, in the last 5 years, we've had 2 people killed in a crosswalk because those speeds are so high and people are not paying attention. I've had multiple, and again, all of this other stuff is anecdotal. I've had multiple people that I know that ride their bikes, on Monte Vista, and because the bike lane on Monte Vista is right where people open up their car doors, have been doored, right? And you have all of this where we've asked repeatedly to have things like road diets and that kind of thing. And they say, why don't you buy a car? Right? That's the response. Or they say, you need to be more careful. Well, I understand, like, in terms of the reality that we live in, I need to be more careful or I die. But in terms of community where we're all supposed to exist together, I think automobile drivers should also be more careful. And if we can't have those people be more careful, then I don't understand why there isn't some kind of an authority that is over the city that isn't saying, hey, you actually have a community that all people have the right to be able to live with dignity and respect and be able to feel that they're going to make a home at night, regardless of how they transport themselves. And so that's, I guess, my biggest problem that I keep going back to is how do we get, folks in these leadership positions to actually consider everybody in the community?
I support a candidate to run against them. I mean, I'm seriously, that's in a way you have to. Are you by district in Turlock, or are they at large? Oh, that's good. Yeah, get a grassroots. Yeah, that's normal. Yeah, get a grassroots. Start usually with a low income, and that's the only thing you can do. But it has to be a broad platform. But unfortunately, the political reality is, and that's politics.
I will just add that the state does have a say in this, where StanCog doesn't. I mean, StanCog has, StanCog kind of has the power of the purse a little bit because they prioritize what grants we're going to pursue and perhaps things like that. So that's an important mechanism. But in terms of state law changes, that's also a mechanism that it does have effects on what our roads look like for sure, and the Complete Streets Act, and things in the general plan and requirements like that. So that is an influential avenue as well.
And I was actually going to add a little bit about the carrot side. So while there isn't really as many mechanisms to say, City of Turlock, your roads are bad and you need to do X, there is the financial incentives. So a lot of grant funding programs are dependent on you making decisions that move in that direction. That's been set back a little bit by the current federal administration. They've kind of gutted all the Complete Streets and road diet elements out of the programs that are there, but I think that's temporary. I think we'll see that come back and as things move forward. So basically that accountability to the taxpayer. If you're going to leave a lot of money on the table, eventually you're going to probably get called out for that.
Thank you, Daryl. Mr. Chair, we have a comment from Charles Carroll from District 10.
Hey, hello, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the interactive map that you are sharing, and I think that I mean, as has been already mentioned, we are in the midst of a range of budget and political limitations, if you will. But regardless, I think what we're looking at here, looking at it from the District 10 perspective, we want to look for those opportunities to build upon what our local agency partners have already developed with their own non-motorized plans, and see to what extent we can match that with our own active transportation plan at the district level. And really, I think for rural highways like 33, it makes a lot of sense to go for a separated facility to the extent that it's possible. Anything above a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit is definitely, I would say, class one, ideally. And sometimes that just depends on right-of-way limitations or environmental limitations as far as a state highway goes. But I think it's also worth looking at local parallel facilities that are intercity or that connect between two major destinations that would exist within, say, a state highway corridor. And if those facilities are class one or a shared use type of facility, I think that's going to be quite beneficial as far as providing regional or even interregional connectivity. When it comes to more urban contexts, I think definitely Caltrans 10 is looking to work together to endorse strategies that make the roads safer for everybody. When it comes to the state highway, things like, we're looking at strategies such as daylighting, bulb outs, curb extensions, lane narrowing, and, if possible, ways to just slow down the traffic. And, things, a variety of possible ways to address that could include class four or shared use sidewalk level class ones, even in some built environments. But a lot of that, I think, is highly contingent on the local context and what local agency partners are interested in doing. And so it's good to see these local non-motorized plans, what StanCog is putting together, what they've already put together in their own non-motorized plan. It's great to see that because it does give us a certain degree of, it helps us leverage with that, and it helps us advocate for more separated and protected facilities, or for strategies that slow down traffic in built environments. And knowing that there's a similar conversation going on at with our local agency partners, I think that's great. It's great to know that because it gives us it's a catalyst. It's a catalyst that we can work with to provide a lower stress, safer experience for all users on within our road networks. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
All right. So any other questions, or do you want to finish the last few little tours here?
Could you swing your interactive map over to the Waterford area? See what's there.
So Waterford, we have the river trail along the Tuolumne River. We've got the class 4 along F Street and County Road J9. And then we have the class one along the canal through here. We did notice that there's a crossing constraint over here that we have to address, and that there's a connection issue here that's a little complex with this bridge and connecting to this trail. So those are probably the two most difficult things. When we talk to the city themselves, they feel like they've been constructing a fair bit on their local systems, so we don't have all that included into the regional plan. But as far as just getting into and out of the community, we have a way to get out pretty much in towards all the other directions.
So is there any consideration to Renway, which is
Just to make a shortcut here.
yeah.
That wasn't on the project list that we'd been looking at, but there could be. I have honestly no idea what that road looks like right now to be able to comment on it. But if it's
towards the uh pardon me?
all right, we can certainly explore that, and I believe that's county area, so we can check in with them on that one as well.
That's also an example on the highway right there alongside the high school where they're expanded development. They have wide 2 lanes with painted separation, new pavement, and then it just ends just past the high school. And from there on out, you're actually riding on the highway with a rumble strip, and it's not safe. We all go out to, at the very least, the Oakdale Waterford Highway, or go beyond that, cross that, and come in from the backside on Ellenwood or something like that.
And I think that was reflected in the usage data that we were looking at, which is one of the reasons I think we took it out this way.
So just to build on what they were saying, especially what you were saying, Larry, would building it, especially for the ability for kids to get to the high school and the elementary school, or their parents take them at their elementary school, that might be a way to induce, children riding their bikes and exercising and things like that. If you build it, they will come kind of thing.
But you also have to maintain it. Those same lanes I talked about that are beautiful, they're filled full of gravel, metal, and glass because everything is cleared off the road by the road traffic. Virtually, you cannot ride a bike through them.
All right, well, we'll definitely take a look at that. And I guess we haven't talked about Turlock yet, but if we kind of take a look down here, we had quite a few intersection constraints up along Taylor area, some class 4 along the Golden State Boulevard, and then a few others cross town, and then down here, I forget which street this one's called. The way the downtown skews kind of makes a bit of a discontinuity here over the rail tracks, so there'd have to be some kind of connection through here that hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. I'm not sure if there's anything along Golden State Boulevard here already. That might be why there's a gap there, but that or Center Street seem like they would be the logical way to get back up to Main and then bypass down, but it hasn't been fully defined yet.
Sorry, East Avenue?
Yeah, so here, because it doesn't cross the rail, so this is right now shown as a class 2B, so it would be the buffered bike lane.
So buffered bike lane means that you have some physical impediment between you.
It's a painted impediment, so there'd be some more space. It wasn't wide enough to do a full
I know.
median.
Because that's a terrible road. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, unless you're in a car.
Right. So maybe maybe that's a candidate for maybe narrowing lanes down or something.
Yeah.
And I think last time you mentioned also South Turlock we don't have a lot going on down here. So we couldn't find any other plans in place. And when we talked to the city staff, they didn't have a lot of advice for us down there either.
Well, that's because that's where the poor people all live. So they don't really care. Sorry for my commentary, but I'm not wrong, just pointed.
Unfortunately, a too common pattern.
Can I just add though, really quickly, there is something about gentrification, right, that is worrisome. And so some of those places where, like what I just said, they don't care, that also kind of ensures that there's not an encroachment and pushing out of the people that are there. So there's that.
And there's definitely a lot of work being done to figure out how to make these kind of improvements while protecting the communities. So Modesto's actually, that's a big concern of theirs right now as we're working through some of the plans we're doing with them. So it's definitely a challenge that we're well aware of. And down here in Newman, we have we have the route to get there, but we haven't had much feedback from the city. They probably have the least robust plan existing now, so there wasn't really a lot for us to work with to know what facilities down here might be worthy of expansion. But it's also a connection down into Merced to get to Gustine, so having that extend down might be one of those examples of an edge connection that we should be filling in.
Down path that need, if you're doing a separated turn lane, or a bike lane. But if you get the right way, railroad, you'd have to cross a couple times from the railroad across the tracks. But that would allow you to do a separation, build one time, put it like on. So swear, not like that, ain't it?
Now I've kind of lost track. Which communities do we need to look at still? Houston, maybe? No worries. Houston has a little bit of a challenge here on Santa Fe. Again, with the rail really limits their right of way, and they have had very limited success getting any agreements to be able to encroach under that right of way to enhance what they have going on that road. So we're again showing the 2B right now, but the city very much wants to see something better than that along there. So one of the other things we're looking at as part of this plan, again, we're trying to take the really long view. So maybe right now we can't get that agreement in place, but that doesn't mean 10 years from now or when we have some new people on the table that may be an option. Or the railway might want something from the city, and then there's an opportunity for some negotiation there. And so a lot of times when we're doing these plans and we're talking about rail corridors or canals and they seem like immovable mountains, we have to always remember that in the long run, it's worth having the line on the map just so that it's there. So in the future, when you're trying to have those conversations, what isn't a possibility now might be in the future. So we don't want to preclude it. But we also don't want to wait for infinite time. So we're trying to show at least something there as an improvement in the short term.
Yeah, northbound has the best lanes going through Houston, and also when they put in new housing development, you actually get a bike lane on the northbound side, obviously not on the southbound. So it's a fast traffic and it's better than some communities. But once you get south of that, there's almost nothing.
And then the other sort of feature, I guess, with Houston is the Hatch Road corridor. So there's an opportunity for a class one trail that's been identified along there. So that would be a really nice opportunity for east-west folks that maybe want to go a little faster than the river trail might allow. So one's a bit more recreational, one's a bit more functional, get you where you want to go.
What about Whitmore Avenue?
There wasn't any plans we could find for Whitmore, and the city actually brought this one up as a potentially interesting corridor for them as well. But they were also concerned about some of the constraints on it. I can't remember exactly what specifically, but they thought Hatch is an easier build with the existing plans, but Whitmore would be a bit of a gap because it is a straighter shot between Ceres and Houston.
The advantage to Hatch is that it's alongside a irrigation lateral, which is where they're getting the right of way to put in the trail. So, yeah, you don't have that on Whitmore.
Let's see. Obviously, there's a lot of little county communities and things throughout that we've been trying to attach into the network as well. So Valley Home, Denair, got Grayson and Wesley, we already talked about a little bit. Salida. So that this is kind of the overarching network anyway, as it is right now. So like I said, the next step, we're going to be carving these things out into more individualized projects that can be packaged together, grants pursued. So when we get through the draft, we'll have all those project packages presented, what they cost, what our estimate of the cost is, how they would fare for the ridership projections and the general benefits that they would provide. So we'll be very eager to get feedback on those once they're released for review. This plan isn't going to be able to capture every possible thing that would be great to have in the county. So we are focusing on the ones that are most regionally significant for this, where we would want to see that interagency coordination between the cities and the county. There's a lot of things that the county will want to do, the cities will want to do that would feed into all of this on their own. So if we tried to capture all of that, then we'd have 1,000 projects that StanCog probably can't manage or keep track of and wouldn't necessarily have any reason to necessarily try to take control. The cities are going to want to have that control on their own. But overall, this is the goal, is to get that regional system set up so that there is something to feed into for all the cities and the counties and to move it forward. So any other questions or anything else you'd like to walk through?
I've got one question. I was out riding the other day and I ran into someone from Copperopolis that was trying to get from Orange Blossom Park down into what's the park? Anyway, I guess the question they were asking me about is that was there a bike path on Orange Blossom Road? And the question that came to my mind was that are people mistaking what we call a bike path for a dedicated separate space? Or do they really understand that a bike path is actually part of the road used by cars also? I'm not sure if that came out straight, but.
No, I get what you mean. And it's actually really challenging because there's a lot of different nomenclatures out there that get used kind of interchangeably. So that's why they developed the class system, was to try to clean that up a little bit and make it easy. But it's not a very public friendly thing. If you kind of go in general public and say, oh, look at my class one, and it doesn't necessarily sell that well. But we've been trying to also translate that into bike trail, bike path, bike route. What do those things mean? But right now the consensus is still kind of all over the place. And if you just talk to the general public and say one of those terms, everybody's going to have a different idea of what that means. So I think we're still working on getting that more universalized. So for now, I think we just have to be a little more specific when we're talking about it to make sure people really understand what we're talking about. All right, any other questions?
It's a lot better than what was before. Is there's more information for the community, especially like Houston, Hickman, that type of thing, where they can be see what can be done. And those tend to be bedroom communities, and you're going to have a higher number of bike riders in those communities than you do in the existing cities per capita.
And my comment is, if you're going to be at the city of Riverbank this evening, is that my understanding? Oh, okay. And I encourage you to get these presentations out to all those communities as you can, because it's just the awareness for all the city councils.
All right, well then thank you guys for letting me take for your meeting again. So appreciate it.
Thank you. I like the improvement from the last time. You've incorporated quite a bit more.
Item 6, member reports. I don't have any.
I don't either. I've been listening quite well today, learning a lot more.
On to item 7, interim executive director report.
The only thing I have to report is that they found a potential candidate for the new executive director, and they're in consultation with them regarding wages and that kind of thing. So as soon as we do have a permanent executive director, we'll make sure that we bring that person here and introduce you. So hopefully it'll be in next meeting. Yeah. And it's been fun to see all the interaction. This set of 3 meetings. I'm very glad that we were able to bring this to you because your feedback really helps inform the Kimley Horn team. So thank you for that.
The next meeting is April 1st. It's Wednesday. It's not a special meeting. But it will be special at 10 o'clock. And I guess if there are no additional comments, we can adjourn. Thank you.